Hello out there in internet land. Welcome to this week's edition of the P&J's Formula One podcast chat. I'm your host, Phil Lamington, who successfully manages to not get the name of the show right every single episode. But if I am the quintessential Frenchman, then my co-host, JB, is the stupid Englishman. How are you, JB?
You leave my heritage out of this.
My dad's British too.
That's right. That's right. And you are 1 from 8 in podcast intros, which is still better than the Brisbane Broncos NRL record.
It's still better than your intros too, because you haven't
I'm
done
0
one.
from 0, which means I'm perfect.
So, the weekend just gone, we had the French Grand Prix from the multicoloured, very diverse paint job.
The acid trip track.
Paul Ricard, which, I mean, we played in the game, and it is a fun track to drive in the game, but as a spectator, it really does look like someone's played a game of Sudoku with that track, or it's a crossword or something, because there's just so many stupid things going on. Just, yeah, come on, Herman. Come on.
I don't even think, was this Herman's track? Did he design this track?
He redesigned elements of it.
You know there's 164 different layouts to that track?
You know what I'd like? If there was just one version of that
If
track.
there was just like one layout of that
Yeah.
track, that would be nice.
Yeah. It's kind of, yeah, you've got 160 different versions of Paul Ricard.
Yeah.
The one track I really want the old layout of is Hockenheim. I want to go through the rainforest again. I don't care what people have to say. I want to go through the rainforest. I might be a tree-hugging hippie and not realise it.
No, you just like high speeds and good racing.
Yes.
Neither of which really features here at Paul Ricard. Although those overhead shots are like trippy as hell. And you know Paul Ricard's right next to an airport?
Yes.
How does the pilot not just like blank out and like have dizzy vertigo spells staring at that coming into land?
See, that might explain Mercedes' tyre strategy. It was pilots just sabotaging it. Sit there going, we can screw over this stupid Englishman.
That's brilliant. I'm glad the French Grand Prix brought out the French in you. Because I'm not going to try an accent.
Yeah, don't.
No, they were dizzy and confused by the stripes as to why they didn't follow Red Bull's two-stop strategy lead.
Yes. Anyway, so we'll go through the classification first. So in first place was Max Verstappen for Red Bull Racing, who he did 2 stops. He also had the fastest lap,
Yes.
and he had pole position. Second place was Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes with 1 stop, where, that really didn't work for
It
him.
was the reverse of Spain. Instead of Hamilton two-stopping and chasing down Verstappen, Max got his own back and was able to chase down Hamilton with a lap and a half to go.
And then in third place was Sergio Perez in the other Red Bull.
Another
Boy,
great drive.
boy, oh boy, he has come good in the last couple of races.
Yeah, he has found his mojo with that car, and I think he was the longest runner on the medium tyres in that first stint, 24 laps, I think.
Yes.
So he's good at getting mileage out of that car and out of those tyres on the first stint,
Yeah.
which holds him in good tail gunning stead at the end of the race, which is...
And that's the thing, like he's proven to be a really good tail gunner.
Yep. And once again, showed it like he did in Azerbaijan.
If they're not sliding a new contract in front of him and saying, we want you to stick around, they've got issues. Because there's no way Albon was never this good. Gasly, I know Gasly's doing all right at AlphaTauri, but I think he should stay in AlphaTauri. Tsunoda, Tsunoda. But yeah, Perez is just absolutely taking the Red Bull by the horns.
Perez was brought in as a stopgap for all intents and purposes. But the way he's getting his head around this car, how long's his contract?
Only 1 year.
Yeah, right. So it's a stopgap contract because Red Bull are obviously hoping for a junior driver to come up. But if that junior driver doesn't present themselves by mid-year or 3/4 of the way through the season, I probably would be signing another year extension on that contract because...
I'd be sliding 2 years on it.
How old is he? How old is Sergio? I mean, clearly not anywhere near the oldest in the field, but...
He's like 32, I think.
Yeah. So we still got probably good 4 or 5 years left in him.
Yeah.
As a top-level driver. Not to mention that sweet, sweet Mexican money that he brings in.
Yeah, but he has the talent too. He has the talent to back up.
The fact that he's got his head around the car this quickly and is putting on podium-level performances, you know, I think Christian Horner would probably be seriously considering extending that contract sooner rather than later.
He's been working with Max, not against him.
Exactly. He's been a perfect team player.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been... Yeah, I'm super... I was so gutted to think that he would be leaving the sport at the end of last year, and I was happy to see Red Bull pick him up.
Yeah.
But to think they've picked him up, and he's now in career best form.
Yeah.
With a car that's capable of winning races.
Yeah.
How good.
And he deserves it.
Yeah.
He is a talented driver.
If there's anyone on the grid that deserves, like, some luck go his way and some talent to finally shine through, it's him.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's a much-loved figure, you know, even by people that maybe didn't follow racing or weren't racing point fans or even whatever. I've got an affinity with him because he raced for McLaren for that 1 year back in 2013, I think.
Yeah.
But that aside, popular guy, humble guy, talented guy, and everything he deserves, man. He's another podium.
Yeah.
Coming off a race win.
Yeah, that's right. And then in fourth, you've got Valtteri Bottas, or Battery Voltas, depends what side of the coin you want to call him.
Yeah, unlucky.
You know what? I think he was justified in absolutely losing his nut.
Yep.
Absolutely justified in it.
This is another one. After Toto pointed the finger at him for that wheel nut in Monaco. To now, I told you, like he said it, I fucking told you on like lap 24, it was early. And he's like, I think he said him and Fernando Alonso almost at the same time said plan B, plan B. Mercedes didn't listen to him.
Well, I thought in the radio thing he said, I told you 2 hours before the race it was going to be a 2-stop.
Something like that. Like the he just knew the tire. Like he could see the canvas of the hard tire by the end of the race.
Yeah.
And he's like, I told you this would be a 2-stop race and justifiable blow up. I mean, I'm surprised Hamilton didn't have the same sort of opinion, to be honest. I mean, he had the pace, obviously. But
he did make a couple of comments after the race. I just can't remember them off the top of my head. But yeah. Hamilton was like, you know, we knew it should have gone a 2-stopper, but we didn't for some unknown reason.
Because the undercut works so well. The undercut works so well the first time for Max Verstappen. The only way Mercedes was going to get that position back was to try and undercut. But they would have had to have pitted first.
Yeah.
They would have had, and then Red Bull could have then had the option to keep driving. You know.
Yeah.
So.
Then in fifth place you've got Lando Norris in the McLaren.
Yes, brilliant drive.
Then in sixth place was Danny Ricciardo in the McLaren.
His best drive in the McLaren. So stoked for those boys. Great team effort from I think they were 9th and 10th on the grid.
Yeah.
They didn't get it quite right in qualifying, but Lando drove the arse off it. Upper. And, yeah, Lando drove the arse off it. Daniel Ricciardo drove the arse off it even more. For far and away his best performance in a McLaren this year. He was back to his dive-bombing best from 10th, I think.
But there was something I read somewhere that Norris wasn't happy with Ricciardo because Ricciardo tried pushing him off the track at one point.
Yeah, I saw that too. But
thing was, because we just watched the highlights, the Formula One highlights of the race, and they didn't show footage of that. They showed the footage of Gasly pushing Norris off the
Yeah, that was
track.
justifiable. I don't think Norris was overly. I mean, I think he said in the post-race thing, he's like, I wasn't happy with what he was trying to do. It was how he did it, because he pushed me off the track, but he was so far outbraked himself that he himself went off the track. And that's what I had the issue with.
Yeah.
So it's like, if Gasly had stuck to the track, fair play to him. But, Norris did get pushed around a little bit today, but he recovered well.
Yeah, he drove really well.
Ricardo, yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
His
he
best
looked a
drive.
lot more comfortable in that car.
Yeah, that's a big confidence boost going forwards too.
Yeah.
Like he said, what did he say? He needed half a season to get his head around it.
Yeah.
What's this race? 8? 7?
8.
8. He's getting there.
Yeah.
And, he's got 3 races in a row now. 3 weekends in a row just to learn and develop more.
Yeah.
And it won't be long until we're going to have a genuine battle between those two, pushing for the number one. Who really wants to be the number one driver in that team?
As we've got a plane taking off in the background.
It's a very noisy podcast this week.
Yeah, I know. Normally we do this a couple of hours earlier.
Yeah.
In 7th place is Pierre Gasly in the AlphaTauri. Again, he had a solid drive.
He did. He drove pretty well, all things considered.
Yeah.
Probably lacked the pace of the McLarens ultimately in the end.
Well, he did seem a little bit scrappy with his driving, but
Yeah, but, maybe the AlphaTauri's not as planted as... Well, it probably isn't as planted as the McLarens or the Red Bulls or the Mercedes, and I think vehicle performance showed.
I think the tyres might have had something to do with it. But
Yeah, but it was the story all up and down the grid
Yeah.
was the tyre graining and the
Yeah.
degradation.
which
but-
I will come back to that later on.
Absolutely.
In 8th place was Fernando Alonso in the Alpine. That was a good drive from Alonso.
It was a good drive.
I mean, a lot of people are saying, "Oh, it's the old Alonso back." I don't think
not
so.
quite.
Maybe the 2008 Alonso in the Renault when he went back to Renault after his 1 year at McLaren, but it wasn't the 2005,
probably the
2006
best
Alonso.
It's the best Alonso we can get because
Yeah.
he's over the hill. Let's admit it. He's
Yeah.
over the hill.
Yeah,
He shouldn't even be back in Formula One if we're going to call a spade here.
yeah,
This is the best Fernando Alonso we're going to get
yeah.
in terms of
he
physical prowess and racecraft.
This is his Gillette moment. This is the best a man
This
can
is the
get.
best a man can get. This is the best you can hope for. He's not going to get podiums and he's not going to get wins.
Then in 9th, we've got Sebastian Vettel in the Aston Martin.
Good drive.
Solid drive, yeah. Lance Stroll in 10th in the other Aston Martin.
Yeah, probably a solid day for both those boys. Sebastian Vettel came out after the race and said he doesn't like this track at all, but he conjured up a pretty good performance out of the Aston today. Not as good as what happened in Baku, obviously, but, I think maybe there's still some flaws there that were exposed a bit today. But I think a double points finish for Aston Martin won't disturb Lawrence Stroll's sleeping pattern too much. I don't
No.
think they'd be pretty happy with that.
Speaking of things not quite being right, Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari in 11th,
Yeah, where did he qualify?
5th.
Yeah, both those cars went backwards today.
When we get to Leclerc, I'll elaborate a little bit more
Yeah.
on my thoughts. Surprise number 2 is George Russell in 12th in the Williams.
Yeah, unlucky. I mean, he said it himself in the post-race. He's like, it's just ironic that I drive one of my best races of the year and there's no DNFs or retirements this time around. So he's still waiting for his first championship point of 2021.
Yeah.
He's driven well enough to have earned at least one, but unfortunately there were no DNFs today. Surprisingly, almost. So, the chance of drivers ahead of him dropping out and gifting him a few places for that magical 1 point and 10th Didn't quite come today.
Then in 13th, you've got Yuki Tsunoda in the AlphaTauri.
You know what? Not a bad drive. He started in pit lane, remember?
Yeah,
That's not a bad recovery drive, if I'm honest.
yeah. No, he did all right.
Would have been all right. I mean, imagine if he'd been able to keep his spot on the grid. I mean, if he didn't throw it down the road yet again in a qualifying session for the second weekend in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he probably would have been up there with Gasly. He probably would have bumped one of the Astons out of the top 10.
Yeah.
But, you know...
Look, I think the best he would have gotten was 10th.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But again, you know, he's starting to show a bit more talent. And a
Yeah.
bit more speed and a bit more pace.
He's still making a lot of rookie errors, though. Like, it's still not a controlled drive.
No, it's very much not a controlled drive.
Yeah.
But,
Then in 14th, you've got Mr. Personality, Esteban Ocon, in the other Alpine.
yeah,
He-
probably...
He drove a nothing race.
Yeah, I wonder if he's scratching his head after this one because his Fernando convincingly outdrove him. And it's in the same car. Like,
Speaking of head scratching, though, in 15th, you've got Giovinazzi in the Alfa Romeo. 16th is Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari, and 17th is Kimi Räikkönen in the Alfa Romeo. Okay. What the hell happened to Charles Leclerc? Like, at one point, he was right up the front, and then he pitted. And then the Ferrari that was on track on Sunday felt like it was the 2020 Ferrari.
the last I saw of them or remember of them in the broadcast was the McLarens blasting past them. And the simple statement from Martin Brundle was, it looks like the McLarens are looking after their tyres better than the Ferraris. And that is the last I saw of either of them until the end of the race.
Yeah, because Charles Leclerc, he was the first one to pit. He was the first one to pit and put the hards on.
Yeah, and they would have just got chewed up by the end anyway.
And then he had to pit again, and he ended up in 16th. But that Ferrari had no power in it.
It just...
It was last year's Ferrari engine all over again.
I don't know if it was the power. I think it was the way it treated its tyres. I think it's a little bit more tyre hungry than we imagined.
Yeah.
Because it dropped like a rock, both of them. I don't think it's a power issue. I think it was they just chewed the hards up,
Yeah.
like, and badly to be that far back, both of them. Yeah,
Which, that kind of means it's an aerodynamic issue.
they weren't the only ones struggling with it, but
Oh,
I
yeah.
guess more so than others.
Yeah.
You have to ask them. Obviously,
Yeah.
I didn't catch any post race with either of the Ferrari boys. Actually, I guess they weren't really in the mood to talk, and rightly
Yeah.
so.
Then you've got Nicholas Latifi in 18th in the Williams.
Yeah,
Mick Schumacher in the Haas in 19th. Mick Schumacher did well in qualifying. He got into Q2,
he did.
even though he crashed.
He drove the wheels off that Haas in Q2, but unfortunately, come race day,
That Haas is just,
it's a shitbox.
yeah, it's technologically stultified.
I obviously had the battle earlier in the year between which would be the worst car, the Haas and the Williams, and I thought it was rather even. But as this season progresses, it's becoming abundantly clear that the Williams is far and away the better car than the Haas.
Yeah.
I didn't realise how bad the Haas actually was, but, you know, Schumacher started 15th and was just steamrolled by everybody. I mean, it's like that car's got no fight in it.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's they are playing the long game, though. They are looking towards next year.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
you know, Gene Haas is pulling his credit card out of the machine next year, and it's all on Mr. Mazepin's...
Dimitri Mazepin.
Dmitry Mazepin's
Well,
Russian money.
apparently Ferrari has pulled the pin on developing this year's car and working on next year's car already.
I guess you sort of have to.
Oh, yeah.
They
I mean,
need to realise they're still in a championship fight with McLaren, though, hey?
I think they've come to the realization that they can let McLaren run off with third. They can retain fourth because they are a long way ahead of whoever's in fifth.
It's a toss-up between Aston Martin and AlphaTauri, I guess.
I think it's AlphaTauri.
Yeah.
And by them just sitting there going, look, we've got fourth sealed up. You know, third would be a blessing in terms of money, but we've got fourth sealed up, and fourth gives us more time in the wind tunnel for next year. maybe it's a sacrifice that they're prepared to make.
Yep. I'm not against it. I wouldn't be surprised if it is. I don't know if that's their actual thinking, but if that's what they want to go with, then props to them. I mean, yeah, you're probably right. They'll far and away be the fourth best team.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be a tight battle for the third best team between them and McLaren, but they'll definitely be the fourth best team for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so I've got some questions for you. But like before, we were talking about the tires, and the Pirelli tires have really come under a lot of fire in the last couple of weeks, particularly with what happened at Baku. And how they kind of said it was the team's fault, but it wasn't the team's fault about the Max Verstappen's tyre blowing out.
Yeah.
And then this weekend, the hard tyre didn't last. Like it was. Do you think that Pirelli this weekend made the wrong choice with what tyres to bring? Seeing they brought the C2, the C3, and the C4, do you think they should have brought the C3, the C4, and the C5 and had a super hard tyre?
The problem with the tyre degradation wasn't the tyre itself. The problem with the tyre degradation was the tailwind, massive tailwind, down into a few of the corners, a few of the critical corners on the lap. It also rained the morning of the race, which rubbed away any rubber, any grip that track had post-qualifying was gone.
Yeah, so it would have been a lot more grainy on the track with the
tyre data was actually skewed to the point of being irrelevant because the mandatory directive from Pirelli after Baku was to add 2 pounds of pressure in the rear tyres to stop them from splitting and to stop the tyre wall distorting too much.
Yeah.
So effectively they had to harden the rear tyres, which, there's more air pressure in them, which means there's more load on them. With a tailwind, with a track that's got no grip, I mean, it was a combination of factors.
Yeah.
And we didn't see any tyre failures this weekend.
That's true.
On a track that's notoriously hard on tyres.
Well, my question is, do you think Pirelli are doing a good enough job as the tyre supplier? I keep thinking they're not doing a good enough job still. And I call me old-fashioned, call me, you can call me Susan if it makes you happy, but I miss the days of having a tyre war when we had Bridgestone and we had Michelin. And this one tyre manufacturer supplying everyone tyres, it's taken something away from the sport for me. I know it means it's an even playing field for everyone and it just becomes strategy.
That's exactly it. It's parity. It's parity for parity's sake.
Yeah.
You can't have Indianapolis 2005. You can't.
Yeah, it's
Formula
true.
One can never do that again.
Oh,
I had this conversation on the way back from Manly Beach, actually, with a mate who's getting into Formula One, which is pretty cool. Yeah, I told him about the tyre war between Bridgestone and Michelin. And I also told him the reasons why it can never happen again. Because it's a parity sport. It's a sport that is so much based on parity that next year's regulation is purely for parity. A salary cap, the best teams getting less wind tunnel time and the worst teams getting more wind tunnel time and more testing time. And to bring the field together so it looks more like a Formula 2 race than a Formula 1 race. This is a sport that is about parity and driver versus driver. They want this sport to be driver versus driver, not car versus car. And as much as we'd love a tyre war and refueling back and all that glory days stuff and V10 engines, it's not coming back. Like, you can't. It's a sport that needs parity and needs exciting racing, and it's a control tyre. It's like having Dunlop and Yokohama in the V8 supercars and the Yokohamas being better at Bathurst than the Dunlops, and no one wants that. No one wants to bolt a set of Michelins on over the Bridgestones and then realising that Bridgestone's at 2 seconds a lap faster.
Yeah.
And especially if you've committed to that tyre supply for the year, you can't have that. It's a control measure.
Yeah.
It's a control measure.
But I mean, it is an interesting question to ask, though. But then it comes to the question for me is, do you think that Pirelli are doing a good enough job? Or would you like to see another tyre manufacturer take over?
I wouldn't mind seeing what other tyre companies have to offer.
Well, the only other tyre manufacturer who put their hand up and said, hey, we're interested in providing tyres for Formula One was Michelin. But Michelin, when they put in a tender, said they would only do it if Pirelli was also supplying tyres and we had a tyre war. And Pirelli said they would only do it if they were the sole tyre manufacturer.
Exactly, and I've got to assume Pirelli's got an exclusivity contract worth billions and billions of dollars to Formula One.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was never a fan of the Michelin tyres, if I'm honest. If I wanted to see one back, it'd be Bridgestone.
Yeah, I'd be happy to see Bridgestone come back.
I don't know. I mean, they've had to change tyre compounds, and these are the hardest tyre compounds yet, by the way.
Yeah.
ever made by Pirelli. You got to remember, these are the heaviest Formula One cars ever, generating the most downforce ever, with the most torque ever.
Yeah.
There is only so much a tyre can do for 30 laps.
That's very true.
Yeah, like, I think Pirelli, and they're under the directive of the FIA, like, whatever they tell them to. You remember how they said, I want you to make the tyres a little bit softer in 2013 or 2014, whatever it was, and at Silverstone they had all those blowouts.
Yeah.
And Pirelli's like, well, you told us to make the tyres softer. And now, they've had to go the other way, and these are, as I said, the hardest compounded rubber tyres Pirelli have ever made, pretty much for any race car.
Yeah.
I think they're doing as good as anyone. No one's throwing their hat in the ring to say that they can do better.
And
at least.
It's not an easy task either to make all these tyres for all these teams when every team wants the tyres made their way.
Exactly. You've got...
To try and put a level playing field on the tyres and go, these are the tyres. These are the tyres. Make your car work with these tyres.
Well, that's what we have.
Because,
that's what we have.
Because you get what you've got now, which is Mercedes sitting there saying, blah, blah, blah about the tyres. Because it's another thing for Mercedes to whinge about because they're not dominating everyone like they have in the previous seasons. It just shows that perhaps Mercedes... And I mean, Mercedes had more... I think they had a little bit more testing time with the tyres.
Yeah, they were limited to 100 kilometres, though. It's not much.
But, I mean, they were the first team that got to test this year's tyres last year.
Yeah.
And they were the first ones to have their say about the tyres. And the first one to get technical data on the tyres. So they've had the longest period with the data and had the first say on the tyres to dictate the direction that the tyres should go. And yet they are struggling to make tyres work.
Well, you've got 10 different teams with 10 different cars with 10 different needs.
That's
true.
true.
You can't cater to everyone. Someone's going to... The stars will align for someone and the stars won't align with others. And that's just how it is. Like, everyone gets the same.
Yeah.
Like, the tyre situation hasn't changed. You're like, there's going to be Pirellis this year, then there's going to be Pirellis next year.
And next year they've got the 18 inches.
Yeah, exactly, the 18-inch rims, which will be different again, right?
Yeah.
But it's as level a playing field as you're going to get.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Well, what tyres... Oh, lovely.
Sorry, buddy.
Sorry, everyone out there. What tyres does IndyCar run? Do they run a control tyre too, or do they?
Pretty sure they're control tyre. I'm pretty sure. I wouldn't see why they wouldn't be.
Yeah.
I mean, they control chassis. They're all Dallara chassis, aren't they?
Yes, and they've got a control turbo as well.
Exactly. So if the chassis are control and the cars
Who
are
are the engine suppliers in IndyCar? It's
I thought it was Honda.
Honda and Chevrolet.
Yeah. I think so. I think there's only two.
Why isn't anyone trying to entice Chevrolet to make Formula One power units?
Because I don't think IndyCar power units are hybrid units. I think they're just...
They're V6 turbos, I know that. But
Yeah, without the kinetic unit. I don't know. I don't know how hard or easy it is to hook up a prototypical
yeah,
turbocharged.
hook up a laptop battery to it.
Yeah, you're hooking up an engine and a turbocharger to a bunch of electronic shit. And as Honda proved in 2015, it's not super easy.
Yeah, but look at Honda going now.
Yeah, exactly. 5 years too late as far as McLaren's concerned. But
Yeah, but I mean, McLaren's gone back to their number 2 home, which is Mercedes. So
that's it. Still no black and gold paint, though, is there?
Yeah, that's a bit...
I mean, red, black and silver.
Yeah, there's no West logo down the side or a Vodafone logo.
Beautiful, beautiful cars.
Oh, yeah. I mean...
Nothing wrong with the papaya and blue, but
yeah,
come on, man.
Yeah, it's either white or red with Honda, or it's black and silver with Mercedes.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, papaya and blue can jog on back to the 60s. But, or, could be, the 2002 Ferrari, because that was just gorgeous.
Was it red?
Yes. Surprisingly. Or the 2007 Ferrari.
Was that red too?
Yes.
Or was it burgundy?
It was not quite as burgundy as the tail end of the current Ferrari.
Yeah, your old two-tone Ferrari this year.
Yeah. But I actually was looking at some photos from 2007. And one thing that struck me about the 2007 Ferrari was the front wings. Like the front wings in 2007. Do you remember them? Was
that the one that they'd branch out and then they'd have that T-piece over the top?
Yes.
Of the nose?
Yes.
Yeah, I saw a photo of Kimi Raikkonen's 2005 McLaren. The Vodafone McLaren. The amount of aero on that thing is insane.
And yet
it was like this year's floor design on the Formula One cars, but all over the car. It had these weird pipe things coming out the diffusers and these wavy things along the nose. It looked brilliant. I mean, it looked brilliant. I kind of wish they didn't have the groove tires because they would have generated some load and some speed in those things.
Because I saw a photo of Kimi's 2007 Ferrari with that, the front wing just looked phenomenal with the normal front wing, and then it had the bow bit over the top.
Yeah, the McLarens had the same. I think most of the cars that year had the same.
Then you look at the 2014 Ferrari with its aardvark nose.
Yeah, but every team had to have that. That was a dumb rule.
Or even worse, the 2014 Caterham that looked like it had...
No, the 2014 Lotus with the fucking odd nose that weren't the same length. The left was longer than the right, remember?
Yeah,
but the Walrus Tusk?
Yeah, but that looked better than the Caterham that had the ginormous dildo out the front.
Formula One's been through some shit, and not all of it's good, but most of it's. And next year's cars, at least in concept, look pretty fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, no, they look pretty sleek and pretty futuristic.
They do.
So then my next thing on my notes here, my next question is, what the hell was the go with Mercedes' strategy at France? It just... they didn't listen to the drivers.
I think Verstappen's initial undercut fucked them. Because he got out ahead of Lewis, and it was pretty much almost race over from there. And the only thing Lewis could do... I mean, Lewis was drawn into a hard corner, like what happened to Max in Spain.
Yeah.
It's like, do you follow Verstappen's lead and put a new set of tyres on? And he would have lost the lead of the race anyway, I'm pretty sure, had he pitted.
But he would have had a better chance of fighting, though, at least.
What do? The guy in front of you stops for fresh tyres. You either stop with him and lose the lead anyway, or you take the lead and try and hold the lead. Rock and hard place.
But the person I feel the sorriest for is Valtteri Bottas, because he's on the radio swearing and cursing. I'm going, I told you it was a two-stopper.
I don't know why Mercedes didn't do an alternate strategy with their cars in the way Red Bull did. If Valtteri had two-stopped, he would have been up there. He probably would have been up there fighting with Lewis, probably getting past Lewis. I don't know why they didn't pull the alternate strategy move.
Well, I mean, he would have been able to battle Perez.
Exactly. And I think that's what he feels the most hard done by. Not only did he miss the podium, he probably missed the chance to finish second or even win the race.
And then you know what's going to happen. Like, he's pissed at the team. Bottas's relationship with the team was fractured going into the race. Now it's not good at all, and he's just opening up the door for George Russell to take his seat.
The problem is this wasn't Bottas's fault.
Yeah, but
this isn't Mercedes being pissed at Bottas. This is Bottas being pissed at Mercedes.
Yeah, but look what happened at Monaco. It wasn't his fault, but Toto sat there and blamed him for it, didn't he?
Yeah.
So
well, look, Mercedes, like the first words out of the race engineer's mouth to Valtteri after when he crossed the line was, "This one's on us. We're sorry." They know they fucked up.
Yeah, but you know Toto's not going to take responsibility for that. Toto's going to sit there and spin it 7 ways to Sunday to point the blame at Valtteri Bottas. I feel sorry for Bottas because he's in a fucked situation now. He really is.
I think Mercedes owe him one. Mercedes owe him one.
Yeah, but you know what's going to happen, though. Toto's still going to sit there and point the finger at that and go, that's why we're going to get George Russell in that car next year.
Has he, though? Has he pointed the finger at him yet?
He hasn't said jack shit.
I think Mercedes owe him one on that. And they'll pay him back at the end of the year.
Oh, yeah.
They'll let him get one over Lewis at some point, I reckon. They owe him one.
So then, my next point is the McLarens convincingly beat the Ferraris.
Yeah.
That just the McLarens were on it and the Ferraris just were not in the fight. It was 2020 Ferrari all over again.
I think it came out of tyres, man. I think the McLaren's just gentler on its tyres. And, it's got a decent power unit in the back, and France has always suited McLaren. Like, McLaren always do well at France historically. Yeah. This place and the Hungaroring are like their hunting grounds. Like they both twisty sort of.
But I mean, France is typically a power circuit. Like, it's got the long straights on there.
Yeah.
The next 2 races are at the Red Bull Ring, which is also another power circuit.
Yes. Where did Lando Norris get his first podium last year in the first race? Austria.
Yeah.
And then he got P5 in Austria. I'm psyched. I think McLaren's going to have a really good next couple of weekends. And it's, it's not a overly difficult circuit. There's only, 6 corners? 8 corners? Something like that. Daniel Ricciardo's only got to put the foot on the brake like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
Like, I think Ricciardo's going to have a comfortable, easy track to drive a car that he's still coming to grips with. And Lando Norris has already shown what he can do with a Renault engine in the back of it last year, let alone a Mercedes power unit this year.
Yeah.
This is the payoff. This is the payoff for all the development that this car has gone through since ditching the Honda unit, through the Alonso era, through bringing in Norris and Sainz as a brand new driver pairing. And this is the upswing, the continuation of the upswing.
This is Zach Brown and Andreas Seidel's
this
grand
is brilliant.
plan.
This is the stars starting to align.
Yeah.
This is a young, happy team on an upswing. Good on them. I've wanted this for a while, obviously, as a McLaren fan, but
as a Ferrari fan, I was disappointed. Oh, look, I knew they weren't going to be fighting for the podium. I knew that. But I was really looking forward to Ferrari versus McLaren on the track at this race.
I'll be honest, I didn't think McLaren would be fighting for the podium. I didn't think McLaren would be fighting for top 5, and let alone they're both there.
Yeah.
I think you'll get your redemption. Not your redemption, but
we'll get a more competitive fight.
I think Austria will be It'll be a good fight between McLaren and Ferrari there. I think they're, I think Ferrari are maybe compromised by something this weekend. Maybe there's an aero setting that
Because
didn't agree with.
Sainz qualified really well. He qualified fifth.
They both qualified really well. Where did Leclerc qualify?
He qualified seventh, I think.
So, like, they both qualified ahead of the McLaren, so one lap pace was fine.
Yeah.
It was just over a race distance, and I think aerodynamically or setup-wise or something just didn't agree with them at Paul Ricard.
Yeah.
It just
wasn't their day.
It just wasn't their day, and I think Austria is going to be a much different story. A much different story.
Okay. Now, last episode, I had a bit of a rant.
You did have a bit of a rant.
Bit of a rant. This week, JB here is going to have a bit of a rant.
Am I?
He doesn't realise he's about to have a bit of a rant, but he's going to have a bit of a rant about Fox Motorsports' constant attack on Daniel Ricciardo and trying to cause issues with Daniel Ricciardo and Lando Norris. But remember earlier how I said that Norris, there was a report that I read somewhere that Norris was complaining about Ricciardo pushing him off the track.
Mm-hmm.
And he said in the report, it said Norris said that he wasn't happy about the move, but if he was in Ricciardo's position, he would have done the same thing. Yep. But he still was going to go and have a chat with Ricciardo because it was a bullshit move or something. That came from Fox Motorsports' Facebook page.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you. Every time I get on that Fox Motorsports Facebook page, and it's a Formula One story, and there seem to be a lot of Formula One stories, it always seems to be them trying to start a fight with or over Daniel Ricciardo, and then all the comments seem to be the same thing of Fox Sports is making something up so that they can start crap between Norris and Ricciardo, and also because they're trying to crap on Ricciardo. What are your thoughts on this, JB?
I did a piece on this a few episodes ago about this bullshit that Fox Sports is trying to spin, that there's a rivalry between Lando and Ricciardo. There's a natural rivalry between Lando and Daniel because they're teammates. Daniel full well knows that he, at this stage, is the number 2 driver in this team because he is not used to the car. He is not used to the team. He is not used to the environment. Lando is. Lando's been there for 2 seasons now. Or 3 seasons. This might be his 3rd one. I think so. Anyway, there's this fabricated bullshit from Fox Sports that McLaren's trying to fuck Daniel over. Like, he said it multiple times that he's just trying to get used to the car. And it's going to take him half a season to get used to the car. We're not even at the halfway stage of this season. And, he's probably just starting to get used to the car now. And, bloody, I've sort of lost my train of thought here. I'm a little bit, I've said my piece on this. Lando's clearly the better driver in that team. It's going to take time for Daniel to adapt and integrate. McLaren wouldn't be fucking over Daniel Ricciardo. Why would you fuck over a guy that Zach Brown's been chasing since he was reportedly leaving Renault? No, he was reportedly leaving Red Bull in 2018.
Yeah.
Zach Brown's had Daniel Ricciardo on his radar for ages. He's not going out to fuck over Daniel Ricciardo. He just hasn't been able to integrate into the car and in the team because Lando's already got all this prior experience in the car and in the team. I think it's gonna even itself out. Like, there will be a point where they do come to blows because there will be a point where Daniel Ricciardo finally gets his head around the car. But until then, they're professionals. They're professional drivers in a professional team. There's no animosity there. If Fox Sports is trying to get the first episode of Drive to Survive 2021 launched, it's a feeble attempt at journalism. It's a feeble attempt at a fabricated story with no truth behind it whatsoever. Have you sensed any genuine animosity between Lando and Daniel? Because I haven't seen it.
No, well, I mean, there was that we thought was a moment at Monaco, but
The wave, yes.
Yeah.
And, I overreacted, as did Fox Sports at the time. I overreacted to that moment too. Lando explained his side of the story, said I waved to everybody that got out of my way in Monaco. And that wound up to be a non-story. I just... There's... Journalism has become so clickbait driven that they don't even need, this isn't just Formula One, this is rugby league, this is all the shit I read.
well, let me interrupt you for a sec. Do you think that Fox Sports or Fox Motorsports Facebook page and their journalism, and I say that with inverted commas, do you think that their journalism that they're doing by building up something that's not really there or trashing Ricardo every 5 minutes? Because that seems to be the other thing, is either Ricardo's got an issue with his teammate or Ricardo's not driving well.
Ricardo's not driving. Has he come out in a post? Is there an actual quote from Daniel Ricciardo saying anything of the sort, that he's not happy with McLaren?
No?
The only statement of fact, quote from the horse's mouth that I saw was when I told you when he saw Carlos Sainz in the paddock, and he said, Carlos sort of said, "Oh, it's a bit different, isn't it?" And Daniel agreed. It's got a smaller operating window, a smaller sweet spot than the Renault, and a smaller sweet spot than the Red Bull. And that's what he was struggling with. And, he's driving, at the time, he was driving the car around the narrow streets of Baku with no room for error in a car that he's not quite comfortable with. Now he's on a more open track, and we saw plenty of dive bombs and plenty of the old Daniel Ricciardo out there. Where's the statement of fact? Where's the fact that anything's wrong in that team? There isn't. There's nothing wrong with the team. There's nothing wrong with Daniel Ricciardo. He's getting his head around this car, and by the end of the season, going into 2022, Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo are going to be on an even keel.
Yeah.
I promise you.
Because it's going to be a car that both drivers will be able to develop together.
Yes, and they will both be able to take this brand new 2022 car on together and learn together.
Yeah.
There's no segregation. No one's being left behind here.
Well, my question going back to it is, do you think that Fox Motorsports are purely coming up and inventing this journalism so that they can get people to tune in to watch the Formula One on their channel?
Yes. That's how journalism in 2021 works.
Well, then, let me ask you this. Why are they not doing the same thing with V8 supercars? I mean, you hardly see anything about V8 supercars on their Facebook page other than Shane Van Gisbergen won the race and there was a big prang in the race on Sunday. Other than that, I knew absolutely fruit biscuit nothing about V8 supercars.
Yeah.
And the same goes for MotoGP. Like, unless, Marky Marquez wins a race. Congratulations, Marky Marquez.
Hell yeah. That's my boy.
And Jack Doohan?
Yes, Jack Doohan. Although Formula 3, not Moto.
Yeah. Okay.
Son of Mick Doohan won the Formula 3 race yesterday. Shout out to him.
Yep, shout out.
Yeah. Honestly, it's all of that. It's a clickbait article to generate attention with no factual evidence for people to tune in and watch a race that doesn't have a rivalry, which they're going to see. It's just clickbait journalism in 2021, mate. That's what they do. And that's the only thing they've got to go on. I don't think Fox Sports journalists are as passionate about Formula One as me and you, mate. I don't think they've got the hardcore journalists there that stay up till 1 o'clock on a Monday morning watching the races and watching the debriefs. I don't think they're hardcore fans. I think they're just looking for an easy 500-word submission for a week. And, it's the Australians, so, the Australians getting fucked over because this worked when there was factual evidence that Mark Webber was getting fucked over by Red Bull and Sebastian Vettel. This was the big talking point. Oh, Red Bull's fucking over, Mark Webber. We'll support Mark Webber, but fuck Red Bull. No one in the comment section saying we'll support Daniel Ricciardo and fuck McLaren because there's no factual evidence there.
Look, you touched on something very interesting there. I just want to go back to Sebastian Vettel and Mark Webber and that multi-21 incident. Now, you and I have watched Formula One for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And, pardon me. And I think you can remember my reaction when the multi-21 incident happened. Like, I think every Australian that watched Formula One was just like, oh, fuck Vettel, you piece of shit, rah, rah, rah. The thing about it, if you really sit down and think about it, is that though he ignored team orders, even though you weren't allowed team orders, but multi-21, if you're not there to win a race, what the hell are you doing on the grid? Vettel wanted to win that race.
Yep.
He's not paid to sit there and go, well, I'm doing all right, but, the team told me to sit still, blah, 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 blah. He's like, I want to be the world champion.
He was the defending world champion and in a championship fight.
Yeah.
At that time.
And if you are Mark Webber and you're getting told, multi-21, just coast. Yeah, you've got it in the bag, just coast. You shouldn't be just coasting.
Yeah, you shouldn't be just coasting. I wouldn't trust anything my team told me. Like, he smelt a rat long before that happened. Like, why would you, team orders or not, why would you trust Vettel? Why would you trust Red Bull? Why wouldn't you just drive your own? You turn your engine down, but you see that car behind you getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and he's not. Yeah, damn well. Like, surely he smelt a rat at the time. Surely.
Rather than turn the engine up and start racing again, he's on the radio to Christian going, oh, but you said multi-21.
You can't trust anyone out there that's not sitting in that driver's seat.
Yeah,
you.
People sit there and, Senna versus Prost.
Yeah.
And, Senna, it's debatable. Senna, from a certain perspective, crashed into Prost and crashed out Prost so he can win the championship. If you're not going for the gap, you're not a racer.
Yeah, that's his quote.
That's Senna's quote. That was also James Hunt's quote.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not going for the gap, you're not racing. If you're not going for a championship, you're not racing. If you're not going for points, you're not racing. What the fuck are you doing on the track if you're not going for points, if you're not going for a race? Win.
That's right. But, back to the point, that was factual and clear and visible to everyone.
Oh, it's visible to everyone on the podium.
Evidence of Mark Webber getting fucked by Vettel and Red Bull. There's been none of that with Daniel Ricciardo and Lando Norris. They got a little bit close into turn one because that's a tight corner on a bunch track and they just happen to be at the same place at the same time.
But they are racers.
And they are racers and they are teammates, and the first person you beat on the track is your teammate. You're always taught that.
The only thing I've read about the team's reaction to the comments that Fox Sports said that about Norris complaining about Ricciardo pushing him off the track apparently came from Andreas Seidel, who said, we tell our drivers to race. They are racers. They race.
They're
racing for position. They are racing for position, and they have to beat each other on the track until we say so.
They raced, they didn't touch, and they wound up finishing 5th and 6th anyway.
Well, Norris passed Ricciardo because the team said Norris is going faster.
And that was factually accurate. He was going a lot faster because
Yeah.
he stopped later.
Yeah.
There's no problem here.
So,
There's
yeah.
no problem here besides the fabricated bullshit clickbait article that Fox wants to throw. Because they've got a 500-word essay limit quota to submit by Monday morning, and that's all they've got to go with.
That's
Because
smashed.
Australian supercar bogan fans want to see how the Aussies doing in the international sport they didn't stay awake for. And that's what they're being told.
All because some
I'm outraged.
some hipster who likes smashed avo on toast, who has been unfortunately
Lost their university degree or in
they've
crippling
been
university debt.
They've been saddled with, we have to write stories about that icky Formula One sport. Icky. I'd rather be writing it about some hipster fucking band. You know, fucking Billie Eilish or whatever. Fuck whatever. But instead they've got to write something about that icky Formula One thingamajiggy that I know fuck all about. That's the thing, like every time you click on one of these articles, it's always some guy.
It's a cherry-picked quote. It's always a cherry-picked quote taken out of context, and that's how...
But then you click on the story and you see a photo of the guy who's written it, and he looks like a hipster douchebag who eats smashed avo on toast.
Mate, he's got $100,000 debt for his failed University of Melbourne journalism degree.
Yeah,
Sitting on his desk.
yeah. We sit here and we shit on Mazepin and how his old man bought the team or whatever. That's probably how this idiot got into journalism. His dad probably bought him the fucking degree.
Oh, he just showed the editor that he's got $100,000 of debt and a piece of paper he no longer thinks he wants.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. Yeah,
I just wish Fox Motorsports would just knock it off.
it's a cherry-picked quote taken out of context and turned into an article, and that's how it happens in journalism now. Entertainment, sport, politics. It's a cherry-picked. It's an outrage. Click on it, like it, share it, because that's what gets them advertising money. You know, and then the people who didn't bother staying up till 1 a.m. wakes up and wonders why McLaren's fucking over Daniel Ricciardo when in actual fact they're not.
Or the proper journalists get arrested by the Australian terrorism group. Hi, friendly Geordies. Whoops, where did I go with that one?
If you want factual straight down the line, you're in the right place.
What, this
Don't-
podcast?
Yeah, don't bother going to Fox Motorsport.
Yeah. Come and listen to the P&J F1 chat
That's it.
with one proper journalist and a guy who just has all the gear.
Whoa. I don't have any smashed Evo or $100,000 crippling debt.
We did have a cup of tea before this, though.
I don't have a crippling debt. I'm a journo for fun, which is way more important than being a journo for clickbait articles.
Or for Fox Sports.
That's it.
Right, so those are the hot questions. Now we're just going to go through the 2021 driver standings at the end of the French Grand Prix. In first place, leading the championship, is Max Verstappen on 131 points. Second place is Lewis Hamilton on 119 points. Third place is Sergio Perez on 84 points. Lando Norris is in fourth on 76 points. Valtteri Bottas has gone up a place. He is in fifth on 59 points. He probably got bonus points for all the F-bombs he was dropping on the radio.
Yeah, maybe.
Charles Leclerc has gone down to sixth on 52 points. Carlos Sainz is still in seventh on 42 points. Pierre Gasly is in eighth on 37 points. Daniel Ricciardo has jumped up to ninth place with 34 points. And Sebastian Vettel closes out the top 10 on 30 points. And then we get the constructors' standings. Red Bull leading the championship with 215 points. Mercedes in second place with 178 points. McLaren has jumped up to third with 110 points. Ferrari has dropped down to fourth with 94 points. And then it's just a little gap. It's just a jump to the left and then a step to the right for AlphaTauri in fifth place on 47 points. Yes, I did quote the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I fucking hate that movie. Aston Martin in 6th on 40 points. Alpine is in 7th on 29th. I lost count there because I'm useless. Alfa Romeo in 8th with 2 points. And Williams is ahead of Haas. Both are on 0 points, but Williams is actually ahead of Haas purely because they've placed higher in races.
Is that how it works when you're on 0 points?
Yeah.
That's loser talk, but okay.
So
yeah, there's your the tiers we called in testing and the tiers that have eventuated. Hey, Red Bull and Mercedes in the championship battle, McLaren and Ferrari in the contender battle, AlphaTauri and Aston Martin in their own little mid-pack battle, and Alpine, I guess, will slowly get there. Maybe, probably not though. Alfa Romeo 2 points. Is that all they've got?
yeah.
That's dismal.
Yeah.
Williams is eventually George Russell. Mark my words, will get a point or two this year, which will be a point or two more than Haas will get this year. So
It'd be really funny if Haas gets a point before Williams. I honestly
they would need like a tidal wave to knock out the first 10 cars for that to happen.
You know where they'd get it? Suzuka.
Yeah, probably.
Because every time they do Suzuka,
it's a torrential tsunami.
It's a torrential tsunami. Yeah, and if it's not the torrential tsunami, it's the most boring race because they put it on at the same time as Bathurst.
Yeah.
We've got to sit there and flick between two channels.
Ah, you need KO, mate.
No.
Two screens at once, my friend.
Well, no, this TV's got Foxtel and the TV in my brother's old room's got Foxtel.
I'm not going into 2 rooms to watch 2 races, you peasant.
Yeah, well, I'll get a DVR. I'll get a DVR. I did have a DVR, but I packed it in. But
VHS tape it, mate.
I can do that, actually. Good luck trying to find blank tape, though.
Relic.
It's, yeah, right, whatever.
Like a donut.
And anyway, I've got a VCR there so I can copy the Nightmare tapes, all right? The old board game VCR tapes. So this Sunday is the Austrian...
First of 2.
The Austrian Formula One race from the Red Bull Ring, and then the week after that is the Styrian, because they gave it a fancy name, the Styrian...
It's the Styrian Mountains.
Formula One race from the Red Bull Ring. But
yeah, don't be fooled.
But
it's the Austrian Grand Prix from the Red Bull Ring, followed by the Styrian Grand Prix from the Red Bull Ring.
But with different tyres.
Oh, right. They should go backwards. They should do the first race forwards and the second race backwards.
I thought you meant they should do the Styrian race first. It's the same friggin' track.
No, just spin the fuckers around and they can go anti-clockwise and then clockwise. Clockwise and anti-clockwise. No. Yeah, no, just switch.
Just do the same race. Do it the same race.
Call it the Styrian race first and then the Austrian race. Fuck me.
No, I'm good, thanks.
So there's a lot of people.
Ah.
Hell yeah. Congratulations, Internetland. You get us for 3 consecutive weeks.
Oh, the joy.
Oh, dear.
And then, so what is on after the Styrian race, though? Is that Hungary?
I think there's a big old gap. I'm going to fire up the app and let you know because I only knew that there was French and then 2 Austria races. Austria, and then a 2-week gap to Silverstone.
Silverstone? Then what's after Silverstone?
Hungary, Belgium, Zandvoort, Heineken Grand Prix. I presume that's Monza. We've already done Imola, haven't we? Yes. That's Monza, Sochi, to be confirmed, which I think
that was Singapore, but Singapore dropped off, so it looks like it's probably going to be Turkey.
Yeah, that could be Istanbul Park. That's not a loss.
No.
I mean, it's a loss because I can't go to Singapore and watch the Formula 1, but not that I'd be allowed to anyway because we're on the COVID bubble with them.
Well, I just wanted to announce that we're going to do a special episode on the summer break that they go on between Hungary and Spa, where, if I can get this sneeze out.
Damn, we're a healthy sounding bunch of lads.
Oh, yeah. So the special episode, we're not going to talk about current stuff, but we're going to talk about a topic that a fellow YouTuber named Tomo has been doing, where he's been talking about teams that he would like to see come back into Formula One. And we thought it'd be an interesting episode of the podcast to do our own teams that we'd like to see come back, who would be running the team, who'd be driving for the team, who'd be supplying the power unit.
Damn, I have to actually do research and homework.
A little bit.
That's all right. Well, that gap he is talking about, ladies and gentlemen, is after the Hungarian Grand Prix and before the Belgian Grand Prix.
Yes. So anyway, thank you for tuning in this week.
Yeah.
We will see you next week after the Austrian Grand Prix. I wanted to call it the Aston Grand Prix then, because I was looking at the Aston Martin on the screen.
The Aston Grand Prix. Not quite. So no, we will see you next week and the week after like some sort of recurring nightmare. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's kind of like chlamydia. We just keep on repeating ourselves.
That was not the analogy I thought you were going to bring out. But okay. We're just
works.
like chlamydia. We'll be back next week.
All right. Thank you for tuning in. We will catch you next week. Until then, goodbye.